Welcome back to the Six Yard Line podcast. I'm Noel. Now, it has been a interesting day. I woke up this morning and Sean texted me, "Hey, is this real?" And it was in reference to Nuno Espirito Santo apparently facing the sack at Nottingham Forest. I did laugh and I thought, oh God, this is just, Forest, a typical Forest story. And it's just something that's just kind of made up and it's doing the rounds. And then Nuno does an interview with Sky Sports today, and I find it hilarious that he comes out and says pretty much that his and Marinakis' relationship has deteriorated, and he feels like he's not been in the loop. And obviously, then stories start coming out that he wasn't involved in the Igor Jesus transfer and only knew about it once it was almost complete. And everything they've done and everything they've done since, he's not really heavily involved in. So you kind of then start to read between the lines. Obviously, Edu has come in from Arsenal, and he's been working closely with Marinakis on this overall vision of what they want their teams to play like and how they want their teams to be. And you get the vibe that Nuno might not be the person that they want long term based on the style of play. And I guess Nuno wanted certain players to come in that fitted more of his style of play as opposed to them trying to change the style of play to what they see for the long-term vision of Forest and obviously Olympiacos and Rio Ave and whoever else they decide to add long-term. And, that's a little bit more understandable because, everyone's kind of seen the Red Bull formula work over the last few years across multiple clubs, multiple different countries, multiple different leagues. So there is a method to the madness that people can understand. But where does that leave Forest with Nuno? Obviously, like from my personal standpoint, is Marinakis wants to win and he wants to play a certain way, and he obviously knows that that way we played last year isn't sustainable for long-term success. I think even towards the end of the season, teams definitely did figure us out and definitely did understand how to combat the quick counterattack of Forest. And also, they managed to build holes in what we were doing. So you have to change and you have to adapt. And I think that's really the kind of key. And if you look at what Forest have done in the transfer market this year, it's more about ball retention. It's more about playing a style of football. Now, I'm not saying they're going to try and play like Man City, but they are going to try and hold the ball and keep the ball and work it better than just hitting on the counter, because it is a gamble when you do switch that style of play, because Manchester United was doing it for the last 5 or 6 years, and they were very good at beating teams that everyone said, oh, you're going to lose to PSG, you're going to lose to Man City, and they hit them on the counter and won those games when nobody else gave them a chance. So it worked, but long term, what are they doing now at United? They're trying to be a different style of system to the one that they were before, because it's not very entertaining to watch. They obviously want to entertain fans, and you want to make sure that you're in games. And I think for a lot of periods last year, Forest weren't really in games. They were defending fantastically as a unit. They were keeping clean sheets, and then they were hitting teams on the counter. And that's kind of where you kind of look at it and go, okay, well, I get what you're trying to do. I do think it's a bit weird that you don't include Nuno in those decisions, especially when it's terms of players coming in and players, you're recruiting. So, Marinakis is going to do what Marinakis wants, and I don't think there's anything any of us can say or think, that will change his mind. He's clearly focused. I do question whether Nuno was right to bring it up in public, because at the end of the day, one thing I will say about Marinakis is he's confrontational and he probably doesn't like his business aired in public. And I think that's very evident based on, kind of what's happened with the whole Crystal Palace thing is, we haven't really got a Forest side statement. You haven't really got a Marinakis statement on what kind of has happened. And we've just kind of let the Crystal Palace narrative run, which rightly or wrongly, is obviously given Forest a lot of grief. And then this weekend, they obviously play Palace, and, Palace fans believe what they want to believe. But at the end of the day, I think Marinakis doesn't like to have his stuff aired in public, and I don't think that was the right way for Nuno. Nuno has now since become the favourite to be the first manager sacked in the Premier League, which it's a little crazy to me. I'll be honest. I tweeted this earlier today. I think just with like 1 week where it's just quiet and we don't have any drama, but we'll see how that goes. But at this moment, Nuno is either on the hot seat, putting himself on the hot seat, but what can you do? We have to just trust the process, and hopefully it works out. And they get a win at Palace, and then Nuno feels the love from Marinakis because he did sign a contract 2 months ago. So it will be interesting to see what happens and how this moves forwards. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep following me and Sean every week. Thanks, guys.
Like what you hear? Smash that like button, subscribe now.